Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. And this video will be on Rahu in the ninth house, Ketu in the third house. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So before we get into this, we first have to understand who are these entities of Rahu and Ketu. This is coming from the story of the churning of the ocean of milk. There was a great battle between the Devatas and the Asuryas. And at the time, the Devatas were looking for a solution as there were many casualties on both sides. And the solution to this was to get the amrita, or the nectar, from the churning of the ocean. But in order to churn this great ocean, the Devatas needed the help of the Asuryas. And the plan was for the Devatas to get this nectar and not the Asuryas. But as this nectar came up from the ocean, the Asuryas took it and ran. And so Lord Vishnu stepped in and helped out the Devatas by disguising himself as a beautiful woman named Mohini. And Vishnu was able to deceive the Asuryas. He charmed and enchanted them with his looks. And so through this, he was able to secretly give the amrita to the Devatas behind his back. But there was one Asurya that did not fall for this, by the name of Swarabhanu. And Swarabhanu is the entity that we now know as Rahu and Ketu. Swarabhanu disguised himself as one of the Devatas and sat between the sun and the moon. And he was able to get a drop of the amrita, but not before the sun and the moon exposed him as an impostor. And due to this, Lord Vishnu beheaded him. And usually when Lord Vishnu beheads an entity, they go off into liberation. But because Swarabhanu had taken a drop of this elixir, part of him was stuck in this incarnation cycle, while the other half of him went off into liberation. And so Ketu is the body of this entity. It is the liberated being that is all about moving towards this higher spiritual evolution. While Rahu was the head of this entity that was trapped in this reincarnating cycle of coming here into this material existence. And so Rahu represents our material incarnation. It's what brings us into this life. And so Rahu is the unresolved karma. It is the reason why we are here. It is all about our desires, our ambitions. It is all to do with the material world. Rahu is a very worldly entity, is very intellectual, is very much about this modern mundane reality that we live in. Rahu is also very unconventional and shocking. And we can see this in both of these lunar nodes of Rahu and Ketu, that they both have a destabilizing effect. But in particular, Rahu is about standing out from the crowd. It is about becoming unconventional, being rebellious, stirring up controversy. So Rahu is in the world creating this controversy, while Ketu is detached from the material world. Ketu is all about our spiritual growth and evolution. Ketu holds the secrets to our past lives. It is all about the skills, the talents that we have developed. And so Ketu is all about the talents that we naturally have. If you are gifted in an area without any kind of farmer training, something that just comes naturally to you, this is related back to Ketu. Ketu is related to our intuition, to our creativity, to our ability to tap into other worlds and dimensions. Ketu is introverted. It's about going within, where Rahu is extroverted. Although because Ketu is what we have already experienced, it also is what we are detached from. And so there's a tendency to dissociate in the area that Ketu is positioned in. So, what does it look like to have Rahu in the ninth house and Ketu in the third house? Well, first we have to start with Ketu in the third because Ketu is our past life experience. It is the root, the source of where we are coming from. So, Ketu in the third house is showing that there was an attachment to your family, to your early environment, to the things that you have been taught, the things that you have learned from your early environment in a previous lifetime. So, coming into this life, you can have a very disturbing early childhood experience with Ketu in the third house. This can also show that you are very much interested in learning. You can be a knowledge junkie, continuing to consume more and more information. This can show that you are very much connected to other people. You love to communicate, you love to associate with others. However, at the same time, there can be some sort of a detachment, a dissociation in this area where there is also difficulties around communication and connection. And typically with Ketu in the third house, it's easy to do small talk, to do chit chat, to entertain others, but it is not always easy to farm the deep connection that you are looking for. With Ketu in the third house, you can be very diplomatic. You have a way of speaking where you don't want to draw lines or cause conflict. So you are constantly thinking about how you want to speak, how you want to address other people. And this can actually become like a mental disorder within the mind where you are replaying conversations inside your head. So there can be a lot of anxiety around communication and trying to get communication and connections right in this area. Ketu in the third house definitely makes you very courageous. You are wanting to take risk. You are wanting to go for what you want in life. You can be very independent and self-reliant with this position. But once again, all of this thinking and conversation that you are doing can cloud your head with all of this information. And so this can be a position where you're restless, where you're constantly thinking, where you're unable to silence your mind. There is a lot of chit chat conversation that is going on with this position. This can leave you scattermined and overwhelmed by social situations as well. But you're very good in social situations and you're constantly trying to connect with others, trying to relate to others. This can give a love of social media, a love of being connected with others and groups. With Ketu in the third house, you also can be a very curious person. Once again, you love to learn, you love to gain information. You're constantly researching, constantly reading, constantly having conversations, trying to ask questions and to gain some insight. However, sometimes you can lose connections because there is a lack of depth in this area. So Ketu in this third house is going to aspect over to your seventh house and your 11th house. And these aspects will become especially prominent when you go through a Ketu Mahadasha. So the seventh house is all about relationships, both business relationships and marriage as well. And the 11th house is your older siblings along with your social network. That third house where Ketu is younger siblings, cousins, neighbors as well. So you can have difficulties around connecting with people. You can have losses in this area of trying to build these connections and relationships. For some of you, you may be the only child or you may have a loss around siblings, separation from siblings, all sorts of strange scenarios surrounding your relationship with your siblings. Sometimes to other people, you can come off as someone who has a great deal of information. You constantly are learning and dissecting more and more information. So you can be someone who others go to for insights. However, again, there is a lack of depth in this area. You may not be able to decipher deeper meaning from the information that you have. With Ketu in the third house, you can gain a lot of spiritual knowledge, a lot of philosophy, but ultimately you have to move towards Rahu to be able to gain a deeper understanding of this information. So this leads us to this Rahu position in the ninth house, because Rahu is the area that is out of your comfort zone that you have to move towards in this life where those unresolved karmas are. So Ketu in this third house is going to give you this ability to gain a tremendous amount of information and knowledge. But this becomes about understanding this knowledge at a deeper level, discerning what is truthful, what is meaningful, and what is the deeper meaning behind all of this. And so typically in a Rahu Mahadasha, this can take you away from social connections. This can take you away from others, as this is moving you in the direction of gaining this deeper spiritual insight behind the knowledge that you are moving towards. Rahu in the ninth house can make you someone who is very unconventional when it comes to religion, culture, traditions. You are looking for your own philosophy in life. So Rahu in this ninth house is going to take you into various areas of life where you can explore different cultures, different religions, until you are finding that philosophy, that truth that really is working for you. Rahu in the ninth house is going to transform your life and your perspective, because from Rahu's position in the ninth, it will aspect over to your first and fifth house. And again, these aspects will become exceptionally strong during a Rahu Mahadasha. So this is definitely going to change your direction in life, because it is going to aspect over to your ascendant, that first house, which is all about your life direction, your life path. And so for many of you, as you are going into this brand new direction of gaining this philosophical wisdom, this deeper insight, this is going to transform your perspective. And for many of you, this can take you into foreign lands. This can take you towards foreign cultures, foreign religions. And so this can change your whole environment, your whole perspective. This can take you away from your family. With Rahu in the ninth house, you can make an excellent teacher. You can inspire others. You can share your wisdom with others. If Rahu is placed negatively within the chart, though, this can create a situation of a false guru, of someone who is claiming to have insight but actually lacking in the depth. And so with this position, it is very important that you are finding that silence, that you are going inward, that you're connecting more in with your heart space, with your intuition. So this position is excellent for meditation, excellent for spiritual practices, excellent for moving in this direction to gain some deeper insight. And so with Ketu in that third house, where it can give you a lot of information from books, from conversations, from thinking, this becomes all about going beyond that. It becomes about understanding this deeper meaning, this deeper wisdom behind this. And this is this direction that Rahu is taking you into. With Rahu in the ninth house, you can be all about being charitable, helping others. This can make you a humanitarian, especially in foreign places. With Rahu in this ninth house, you also can have a lot of focus around children. So once again, this can make you an excellent teacher. This can get you involved in charities and organizations that deal with children, especially as Rahu is aspecting onto the fifth house of your chart. You can be someone who wants to have children, and you can move in this direction of caring for children. You can have strange situations around children, though. You could be a foster, you could be adopting. So this is an area where you are going to become a great inspiration, a great teacher for others. And again, this is especially true when this is being used in the correct way. With Rahu in the ninth house, sometimes this can be an area where you are inventing your own movement, your own religion, your own philosophy, and sharing this with the world, sharing this through an organization. This can make you an excellent writer, as this ninth house is all about publication, but also anything that is related to this third and ninth house axis becomes an excellent pursuit for you. Writing, acting, creativity, working with your hands, communications, all of this becomes a great area for you. With Ketu in this third house of your chart, you are looking to move into a direction where you are self-made, where you are making your own path, your own direction. And once again, with Rahu in this ninth house, this is making this all about your own philosophy, your own direction, your own destiny in life. Rahu in the ninth house is excellent for your higher education, and many of you can aspire to move into this direction of gaining this higher wisdom once again. This is an area where there can be some difficulties with Rahu being this very transformative influence. You may be moving to a foreign location to gain education. Ultimately, this becomes about moving away from your family, moving away from your early environment, all of those factors that are influencing you in your childhood, and moving into this brand new direction of your own philosophy.